The Together Party. Sounds nice, doesn't it? Let's have a look. Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of Heiser Says. I'm starting a new series that will have no regular schedule and no promised deliverables, but it's called Minor Matters. It's where I want to look at minor parties, potential parties that are applying for registration, just around politics, and learn a bit more about these parties, really look at their constitution, what they say they're about. Because, I don't know about you, but I'm a bit frustrated with the major options that we have here in Australia at the moment. I've been frustrated for a couple of years, I'll tell you, just a secret between you and me. And, I think there's going to be a lot of people who are looking at some alternative parties or minor parties, perhaps to get someone in the Senate to represent their views a bit better. In our democracy, if we have a mixture of different people working together in Parliament, that can be a good thing because hopefully they'll reach a compromise. They won't go on Sunrise and badger their opposition. They should work together to reach a compromise. That's kind of the whole point of our political system. People seem to have forgotten it. So that's why I thought today we'd look at a party about being together with everyone, bringing people together, healing this political divide that is just, it's ludicrous at the moment. You can just see it. I'm seeing it in the comments. People are in danger of becoming ideologues. Well, they'll just blindly attack you. You didn't insult Pauline Hanson. You dared to defend her in one circumstance. I hate you. I want to kill you. People are crazy. So let's have a look at this party. Let's have a look what it stands for. Now, this is from the AEC. This is their notice to register as a party. They need to submit this. So it's the Together Party. The abbreviation is Together, and this is their little logo thingamajig here. So they've got 500 members. They put their $500 in, so they've got the chance to be a party. So there you go, and then you can run. So let's just jump quickly. Let's have a look at their website. So this is their website, and I've been looking at a fair few political websites, but then I also look at their constitutions, and we'll look at that next, to kind of not get swept up too much just by the quality of their graphics. Now, I don't know if this is a political party or if it's a way to push his book. So let's have a look. So it's the Together Party, Rebuilding Our Commonwealth. Okay. Now, Mark Swivel is a lawyer, performer, and writer. So right there, that's just a warning bell for me. Another lawyer in Parliament. I know, okay, I know a lot of lawyers. They're all strange. Sorry, guys. But do we need more of them in Parliament? Do we really? So, but he's a professional. He's had his own law firm, which is good. So, which is good if he's got some practice running and experience running a business. That's encouraging. If the only quota I would argue for in Parliament, the only quota I would push for, would be from the merchant class, would be from the small business owners that have had to deal with just the pain of red tape that comes from our government. If you haven't had to run a business and experience those challenges, you're very lucky, and you'd be shocked at how tough it can actually be sometimes. So, he's a company secretary at Innova Energy. In a previous life, Mark was a senior executive at Barclays Bank, at First Plus, and director of the UK regulatory body FISA. A director of the Sydney Credit Union from 2008 to 11, Mark has a Master's in International and Community Development with degrees in Arts and Law from Sydney Uni, and he won the J.H. McClemens Prize for Criminology. So, he's a smart guy, he's experienced, and this is essentially their manifesto, shall we put it. So, Together, a party dedicated to rebuilding our commonwealth. Together campaigns for the restoration of government in the public interest as a constructive force for positive change across our society, from public broadcasters to national ICAC, from stopping privatisations of public assets to tenure for public servants, from boosting legal aid to investing long-term in scientific research, from developing national industry policy to genuine action on climate change. Now, just because I'm looking at this party doesn't mean, and any of the parties I look at or any of the people I talk about or look into, does not mean they reflect my views or I agree with them at all or entirely or even a little bit. or maybe I completely agree with them. The idea is, because there's a few things here that jump out. Tenure for public servants, are you kidding me? You know, that jumps out for me right away. But the thing is, you don't want to be in a place, an echo chamber, where you don't challenge your thinking. You don't want to ideologically just accept one side of an argument and just dismiss everyone else. You need to take a page out of Jordan Peterson's strategy for if someone's trying to tell you something, someone's putting something forward, listen to it, pull it apart, and see what you can learn from it. Because if we can't do that, then it's all lost. Then my whole argument that we need free speech and people need to be able to discuss things without fear, is gone if people don't accept that. So, our principles: outcome before opportunity, communities before economy, people before profit, homes before houses, education before defense, living with, not against the planet, human rights above all. So better spending. We can make a huge difference in government over time by spending money differently, changing our priorities and spending existing revenue better. Yeah, regardless of your political persuasion or your orientation, if you're anarchist, wanting to burn down the state, to a complete statist, we can all agree on this principle: better spending, more efficient spending. I think it's impossible for government. I think just by the very nature that you're dealing with people who are spending other people's money, the level of respect for it isn't there. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think people, if they get something for free, which is essentially what taxes are for the state, it's free money, essentially, simplified, do you think they respect it as much? No, I wouldn't. So invest in learning over defense, become a renewable superpower. See, this all sounds good. Renewable superpower. It sounds great, but we're not a complex economy. I did a previous video looking at the complexity of our economy, and so I found the website that I mentioned in the previous video, and we'll just jump to that now. And this is the economic complexity rankings, and this is to do with the complexity of your economy, essentially. And Australia is right, and I'll link to this, with number 59 in the world. Okay, we're number 59. And if you go to 68, 72, where are we? We were 46. We're going down. So claims that we can possibly be a renewable superpower when we're not even in the top 20 with regards to economic complexity, and renewable energy generation and technology isn't simple. How? We don't even have the manufacturing infrastructure to possibly compete at any scale with other manufacturing nations. We can't compete with China. We can't even build a bloody ceramic toilet in this country anymore. Okay, and the reason I keep bringing that up is because I'm an architect and we would spec the one Australian product where the dunny was made in Australia. Because it's important. Going to the crap is important. So that's one thing. It sounds like a brilliant idea, but I'm critical of it. I'd like to see a bit more. That's the problem with these type of things. And this is where I'm a bit, this party sounds nice, but is it just a way for him to get a bit more publicity for his book? Maybe I'm just being a cynical bastard. You let me know. So grow mutual cooperative and small businesses. Improve onshore criminal justice. Okay. Rethink taxation to better invest in community, education, health, and climate. So these things all sound good, but let's read a bit more what rethink taxation means. So a better society. We need to be more active in shaping our society, making bigger and better policy decisions to create the Australia we want. The problem is a lot of people want different Australias. Government can take action to bring our future to life. Boosting agency for Indigenous Australians. Yeah, that's okay. What does that mean, though? For me, that means allowing Indigenous Australians in remote areas to have control of their own land individually, not under cooperative, not under a border corporate. Give it to an individual families, so then they can leverage that maybe to start a business or to get a mortgage or to borrow money or to sell the land and move somewhere else. That for me, that's what I would think, to find a way. And as a nation, I'm sure we could definitely give away land in these small towns. Establish long-term strategies to further key business sectors. Address key community concerns like housing, minimum wage, legal aid, NBN, clean energy, education, and workers' rights. Increase women's participation in government policy. How are women already not participating in government policy? Expand the deductible gift receipt scheme to better support NGOs. Manage the transition to renewable energy. Is everyone else getting a feeling where this party is lying on the spectrum? Where do you think? Develop and fund an arts policy. Safeguard public broadcasting. Reform the laws to create more balanced social obligations for businesses. Reading through all of this, I'm getting the feeling that this isn't a party of individual liberty. That's just me. That's just what I'm getting from this. And for me, that is enough to be turned off. Honestly, to not even consider them. When you want to increase government control on the individual aspects of your life, no matter what, how noble your causes are, it just scares me, frankly, because government can't organize anything efficiently at all. We need a more responsive and democratic government engaged with the people. We need to restore and grow better institutions to serve that public interest. Mandate transparency and accountability in government spending, privatization, and tendering decision making. Stop outsourcing of taxpayer-funded services. Yeah, I'm 50-50 on that. Strengthen the public service. Yeah, no, I wouldn't argue for that one. Draw up a Bill of Rights. Yes and no. Yes and no. And you might be going, why are you worried about that, Florian? Because I'm worried that once they draw it up, Bill of Rights, it may restrict us more than we realize. I just see something like that and I think it'll backfire. We're not like, revolutionary America, the States, where you had a bunch of rebels drafting a nation to last and to respond to the climate they came from. Can you just imagine a socialist lefty government drafting up a Bill of Rights? It kind of scares me a little bit. Close all onshore and offshore detention centers. So how do they want to process the people then? Renationalize failing NGO service providers. There you go. Develop and fund climate change projects. Create an independent water allocation and use watchdog. Transact Australia into a republic. Okay, so they're Republican, I'd say socialist, somewhat authoritarian party. What do you think? Let's have a look at their constitution. We'll just skip through all the boilerplate stuff. I'll link to this, guys, if you really want to go through the front. But we'll go through here. Annex A, together a party policy platform. A party dedicated to rebuilding a commonwealth. And there's three things: better spending, better society, and better government. Let's have a look at better spending. We should invest more in learning and less in defense. We could move half the defense budget into education and research. That's around $15 billion per year. It would allow us to subsidize free undergraduate university education, rebuild TAFE, and fund scientific research. Australia is not capable of independent defense and remains valuable to strategic partners. The recent growth in the defense budget should be turned back and redirected into education to support our future economic and social development. So we're not capable of independent defense. That's his assessment. Should we be capable of independent defense? Should Australia be? What do you think, guys? What do you think? We can be a renewable superpower by moving carbon subsidies and exploration incentives across to renewables such as solar and wind. That won't make us a renewable superpower at all. That's around $10 billion per year, which will provide a platform to attract investment in a key new industry. Not if you're setting up a government where you start nationalizing other organizations and increase the perception of sovereign risk. Historically, energy has been a state-run business, and the privatization of the sector has only resulted in dysfunction, unemployment, and higher retail prices. Government investment in industry development is inevitable and should favor the future of renewables. What about nuclear? There's no discussion of nuclear energy here. Why does no one ever talk about nuclear energy? And if you're all Florian, no, nuclear is the end of the world, just look at some of Thunderfoot's stuff. Ignore all his Brexiteering rubbish. Watch his stuff on nuclear energy. And I don't know. I mean, I hate paying huge power bills. I hate seeing, here's a story time. I was sitting around a table at the Brisbane Club, Property Council lunch, and all these well-off people, upper class, decent money, getting, talking about the subsidies to get solar panels on their bloody mansions. I mean, why? And when you think some of these subsidies are equal to what a pensioner might get in a year, what the hell do we need that for? So they can save a bit of money on their power bill, they can afford it. So that's the thing. That's the problem. That's when people start thinking, oh, it sounds good doing all this green rubbish, but then it costs too much, or the subsidies are wasted on people that don't need it. So the existing bank tax, he's going bank tax yielding. So a turbocharged sovereign wealth fund with a board appointed by the federal government should tap superannuation funds and redirect offshore investment into key infrastructure projects. The fund could support partial renationalisation or government statutory corporations in key industries such as electricity, transport, and banking. Okay. Okay. What do you think about that, guys? Do you want to renationalise certain businesses? Do we need to do it? I don't know. My reflex would be to balk at that, to go, no way. Nationalisation, I don't like the sound of it. But, help me see the light. And help me see the alternative. A new land tax paid by all landowners. Fantastic, another tax. Working with the states and replacing stamp duty. Would add billions to revenue and fund an affordable public housing scheme addressing the existing market failure for lower and middle income housing. Reducing the discount for capital gains tax could also boost revenue. So, more taxes. More taxes to do public housing. I would suggest we open up more land. I would suggest we open up more land to allow people to develop. And we reduce the legislation requirements on housing. Queensland has 6-star energy ratings on houses. You need to spend thousands of dollars just getting all the paperwork and rubbish done on your houses. It takes decades for the energy savings that are completely going to be negated by his green policies. That right now you've got to put all this insulation and stuff in a house. You've got to do all these Section J requirements, all these other things, and it takes decades for the money that you invested in doing all that rubbish to offset the savings in electrical costs. But you're going, Florian, it's good for the environment, it's good for this. Questionable. And anyway, if you're going green energy, we don't need to do it. So that'd be one way I would reduce housing costs, would be to reduce the requirements on these houses and let the market respond. I'm living in a 100-year-old Queenslander. My insulation is a piece of timber that thick. If it gets too hot, I open the windows. I don't have air conditioning. If it gets too cold, I put a blanket on or a beanie on my bald head. That's my insulation right there. So, yeah. Universal basic income. Well, there we go. Together, the party of universal basic income. Government income support can start with a basic safety net for all citizens with top-ups for disability, age pension, veterans, and unemployment. Basic income for people without work, e.g. New Start, should be significantly increased. The system should be based on providing subsistence rather than economic utility. Okay, now, I recently did a video looking at the trials for the UBI in one of the Scandinavian countries, I think it was Sweden, and it failed. It didn't work. It made people feel better, but it didn't help them find any employment at all. High income earners should contribute to the federal budget through a buffet-style tax. People earning, say, $250,000 or more must pay an agreed percentage of the income, a flagfall in tax each year. The minimum rate should be no less than the GST. So he's removing opportunities for tax deductions. Corporate tax, turnover tax will ensure companies contribute to government revenues, even when their income tax would otherwise be zero. A corporate equivalent to the buffet tax. Related tax reforms could include a stock market transaction tax. Okay, so guys, what all of this means here, they just want more taxes. More taxes. So, a better society, let's just not jump through all of this. He wants a climate change fund, a development tax, religious institution tax. Here we go. larger religious institutions that hold land and generate income should pay land and turnover tax at a rate between charities and businesses, say 10% of income, the rate of the GST. Sure. Okay. I mean, if you look at the social services some of these religious institutions provide, you need to take that into account and offset it. Indigenous justice. A treaty levy could fund the complete development and reconciliation programs that flow from treaties negotiated with Indigenous Australians. I'm dubious that that would work unless it was to help individuals. I would rather, if you want to look at reconciliation and helping Indigenous Australians, why don't you just say free university for them? But then again, he's given free university to everyone and universal basic income. Better society. We need to be more active in shaping our society, making bigger and better policy decisions to create the Australia we want. Indigenous Australians should be able to negotiate treaties with the federal and state governments, supported by advisorial councils in all Australian parliaments. And then, okay, so he wants... Fantastic. But I am just dubious that any of this showboating will actually make any difference to the individuals. I'm too worried that there'll be like body corporates above, skimming everything off the top, and the poor plebs down the bottom like you and me will get shafted. We'll get shafted. But see, this guy is a statist, obviously. He's advocating for more state control. I mean, good on him. He's written a book. He's getting out there. He's active, and he's believes in institutional control and involvement, and he's trying to do something about it. So with that, I have respect for it. I don't trust any of this. National industry policy must be central to government. We need a clear set of priorities, targets, and funding commitments for developing our current and future technology, agriculture, and energy business. We need a story of economic development over the long term and genuine policies that help Australia get there. Okay, it sounds exciting. Turbocharged sovereign wealth fund, we read about that before. A housing strategy. And he's going in the superannuation funds. Minimum wage should be boosted so that companies and governments share the cost of subsistence and minimum livelihood standards for our workers. The NBN should be wholly owned and operated in perpetuity by a statutory corporation supported by all political parties. Our technology platform is too important, too fundamental to our society and economic development to be politicized. Okay, now looking at all the censorship that's happening online, literally today and yesterday, do you want the government to have control over the NBN? I mean, they pretty much have control over the internet. But do you really want that? Don't trust them. Our national energy policy must manage the transition to renewables. So, yeah, I mean, free university, free tape, free legal aid. Women need to be more prominent in government policy. With violence within families and reproductive rights given more focus and funding, we need to listen to women. We already do. We already do. Unions must be strengthened with clearer rights to strike and organize. The right to strike is a human right. Workers control little beyond their capacity to withdraw labour. That's right, comrade. Better government. Government should report annually to Australian citizens on the return on investments for money spent. Yeah, no, that's a great idea. I like that. Privatisation as government policy should be suspended, pending a royal commission into the impact of privatisation on Australian society and its economy. Yeah, not a bad idea. Government tender processes should be completely transparent with commercial confidentiality ending once the tender is awarded. Yes, I like that idea too. So, while I'm dubious about some of his other policies, I like some of his government ideas. And see, that's the thing. I'm happy to look at a lot of this stuff because, frankly, I'd want to chop and change and steal bits from different parties and kind of push them together. Or if you have, if some people really are liking the sound of this guy and, his party gets in and we get a Senate, that, and then hopefully he could work with other people to reach compromises on certain things. So, okay, sure, we got to cop a bit somewhere else, but you may get some things that we want in another part. Maybe I'm just being naive. See, I haven't lost faith in our democratic system. That's the problem right there. I haven't lost faith in it yet. Give it a few more years. Justice should be the responsibility of the state. Private persons can provide incentives to incarcerate. Private contractors should be, private prisons can provide incentives to incarcerate. Private contractors should be phased out. Yes, I agree with that too. Detention centres will be closed down in Australia or offshore. The government should not jail people who have not committed crimes and never for indefinite periods. So yes, I am concerned with, see, it's a double-edged sword. The problem of, we face the danger of people nearly dying getting here. That's the thing. From the boats, but also most people come in on the planes. So it's kind of a flip-flop argument. So I'd need to look more into it, to be honest. I would need to look more into it. I don't like the idea of people being detained for indefinite periods. There needs to be a mechanism in place where if you don't have enough information to determine if someone's safe to bring to the country, how can you find out? How can you get around that? You know, work in the salt mines. You got to do a 10-year stint out in the farms picking fruit to earn your citizenship. You know, service gets citizenship. Election campaigns should be publicly funded with capped private donations from individuals and companies permitted. Okay, now this is interesting because you'd be surprised how much the big parties get to develop their policies. How much they get, you know, as money to exist. And these parties, the Greens, Labour, Liberal, they get a lot of money just to develop their policies. Lobbyists should be publicly listed on a register with access to politicians and their remuneration sources disclosed to the public. Yeah, private access to ministers should be banned. Yeah, I don't mind. I think that's a smart idea as well. Public service tenure must be restored, with staff contracts extended to encourage independence. Expedience on outsourcing should be reduced to fund the initiative. Okay, this is interesting, because normally I wouldn't want tenure. But looking at the issues with the building industry, Opal Tower, La Crosse, and what's happened with the privatization of the building surveyors and the potential for conflict of interest, could this be a way to address it? Could it? What do you think in the comments, guys? Consultant fees. We need real-time public discourse on the fees paid to consultants by government to do work once done by public servants. Yeah, good. A Bill of Rights binding on all governments that enact basic rights consistent with the United Nations standard, including social, civil, and political rights, criminal procedure rights, and environment and economic rights. Failing NGO service providers should be renationalised, for example, in employment services, vocational education, and disability services. Don't know. I need to look more into that. Well, my friend, Goff, who's a blind filmmaker, and this is story time again, he was asked to speak in front of in Canberra, in front of a bunch of politicians, just about his experiences with a whole lot of these NGOs. And he gave just a horrific speech, pretty much tearing stripes off them, about how these organizations just pretty much pat each other on the back. They do hardly anything, and the same people move from one organization to the other, give each other awards about how they help disabled people, how, oh, we did this tiny little change to get one person a job, woo, I get an award. So yeah, I think I'd call for a royal commission into that sector myself. Regulation should be boosted by providing additional resources to ASIC. Yeah, okay. So guys, climate change projects, remediation, and prepare for further impacts on our coast mines. Okay, sure. The Great Barrier Reef. Okay, so there's some things in here I find quite interesting. I think there's some good ideas here. There's some stuff I really don't agree with. Personally, there's way too much here that would mean that I wouldn't want to vote for this party or cast my vote for them. There's some policies here that I think are definitely worth looking into, learning from, and adapting. Guys, let me know what you think. This has been an episode of Minor Matters. What do you think? Would you vote for this party? Would you know? Do you like some of their ideas? Do you hate some of the others? Do you think they're a bunch of commies in disguise? Guys, please like, share, and subscribe. Ding the bell to see my daily updates. And I will see you all again next time. Bye for now.